Let's take a telephone call. This one from where? Yes, caller?
Hello, George. It's Maysoon from Surrey.
Hello, Maysoon. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Just three very quick points. I was disgusted at Ban Ki-moon's response yesterday when he returned from Gaza to the United Nations and refused to make a comment. He said he wanted to wait for Israel to answer for all the claims that we've been asking against them for war crimes. I've got absolutely no faith in this man. He's just a wimp, and he's just a mouthpiece for them. And secondly, Israel always talks about it didn't target civilians, The amount of stuff that I've been reading about how civilians came out of their homes holding white flags, and the Israelis shot them all dead. They shot little children. They shot parents. They didn't allow parents to retrieve the bodies of their children who were being eaten up by dogs. I mean, is that human rights? Is that caring for children? And lastly, I want to know, where are the international human rights lawyers? Have we got any left that have courage and integrity to pursue this further? Because as far as I can see, I don't think anything is going to come of it, because Israel is not a member of the ICC, and it looks to me as though they're going to get away with yet another massacre of Palestinians. When is it going to end?
Well, let's see, Maysoon. I think you're wrong about the international human rights lawyers. There are plenty of them already on the case. And if you saw Channel 4 News tonight and dispatches later tonight at 11:05 on Channel 4, you'll see an unanswerable case being made by Jon Snow of Channel 4 News that war crimes were indeed committed. And the United Nations agencies have referred those to the United Nations Security Council. And Ban Ki-moon will have to speak eventually when that happens. I'd just like to make one point in relation to your call and to the previous caller. Hundreds of women and children were killed, and if you assume that every other person who was killed, who was not a woman or a child, was a fighter for Hamas, that leaves you about 500 people. If 500 fighters were killed, and I don't believe it was very much more than a tenth of that, but if it was 500, there are 15, 25, 35,000 fighters in Gaza. And every one of the dead fighters has sons and brothers who will now take up arms to avenge their dead brothers and sons. And so nothing has been achieved by Israel on the military level, nothing on the political level, and in public relations terms, Israel is the big loser. They struggled mightily to lift a huge stone only to drop it on their own feet. Thanks for your call. Let's take another telephone call. My goodness, lots tonight. Yes, caller, where are you calling from? Hello.
Hello, I'm Peter Riley. I'm calling from Southport in England.
Welcome, Peter.
Hello. Well, I'm very grateful for the way you put across to the world, really, about the double standards that the EU and America has in its relations with Israel on the one hand and other Arab countries on the other. People aren't aware that the EU has the economic power to pressurize Israel to obey international law and humanitarian law. People are not aware that there is an EU-Israel agreement, and this agreement gives Israel tremendous trading privileges. They're associate members of the EU. There's no import duties on goods coming from Israel into the EU. 60% of their exports are to the EU. Yet Article 2 of the agreement clearly states that the agreement is based on common principles based on respect for international law and humanitarian law. And obviously all the human rights reports show that Israel is in violation of these laws every single day. I was a part of the delegation from Liverpool Friends of Palestine who went to lobby the EU on this point, but we were told this suspension of the agreement, which we were calling for, and many MEPs called for, including Chris Davies from the Northwest, it's just not going to happen. And indeed, there are moves to upgrade the agreement with Israel. In fact, the decision was suspended because of the Gazan war, but it looks as though it's going to go ahead. And I've been getting silly answers from MEPs making excuses that they desire collective engagement with Israel, you know, rather than...
Well, it's funny, Peter, isn't it? A brilliant call. I couldn't have put that better myself. It's funny that they want to have engagement with Israel, but they isolated and refused any engagement with the elected government of Palestine. Indeed, they placed it under a siege which killed a very large number of people and starved hundreds of thousands more. It's a very strange kind of attitude to democracy that they have. Peter, you should get in touch with us, vivapalestina.org, and see what you can do from up there in Southport for the convoy, the Valentine's Day convoy going to Palestine. Let's take another telephone call. Yes, caller, where are you calling from?
London.
Yes, you're welcome. Go ahead.
Optimism is good. I'm optimistic, but I'm a bit skeptical about Obama's administration. Reason being is Mr. Vice President, who actually goes on Shalom TV and calls himself as a Zionist, and Hillary Clinton, who is pro-Israeli and very vastly supported by the AIPAC, and then George Mitchell on top is actually being elected at the Middle East Envoy. So I'm not really sure if Obama will be able to actually make an informed decision. I just wanted to see your views on that.
Well, you're right to be skeptical, and the points that you make are accurate. But Barack Hussein Obama is the President of the United States, not Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton. And as for AIPAC, they tried their very, very best to make sure that it was Hillary Clinton and that it was not Barack Hussein Obama. So they obviously see a difference between the two of them on this subject. What I know is this. I marched with Barack Obama shoulder to shoulder in Washington in the anti-war marches against the Iraq war. I know that he was a man who listened carefully to the late, great Professor Edward Said. I know that Raja Khalidi and other Palestinian intellectuals are close to him. Let's wait and see, and we'll judge him, and I promise you, I'll judge him as harshly, if not more, than you. But let's give him time to affect a change in American policy. Let's go back to the comment wall, take an SMS from Africa, big place. Do you know that Goliath of old originates from Gaza? This means it's the Gazans that are terrorizing Israel. No, it doesn't, and you oughtn't to take too literal an attitude to the Old Testament, my dear. The David in this picture is definitely the Palestinians, and the Goliath in this picture is definitely Israel. As anyone with eyes to see, and I know there are some eyeless in Gaza now, and eyeless, it would appear, in Africa too. But most of us in the world can see the reality of this conflict. And it's this. Somebody asked that there must be a solution in a call earlier on this evening. There is a solution. There must be a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza with Jerusalem as its capital, a contiguous state, a state with an Arab border, with no settlements, with no apartheid walls, and above all, a state to which all the Palestinian refugees can return, and they must be allowed to return to their homes in either of the two states thus created. Or even better, let's have one democratic state from the river to the sea in which Jews and Christians and Muslims can live as equal citizens under the law. Wouldn't that be the democratic way? Wouldn't that be the way that Western leaders like to preach to other people, that they would see them organizing their lives? Well, it's been a great debate. I hope you'll join me again next week at the same time on Comment on Press TV. I've been George Galloway. You've been marvelous.